Hey guys, it's Jessica and today we have a new video I'm gonna start doing on my channel. I'm calling this a review roundup. Basically what I am gonna be doing is I'm gonna take a month or two, so in this case it's December and January, of videos that I've done where maybe the video was a first impressions video, maybe it was trying a new brand, maybe it was a haul where I'm trying on those products. Any of those kinds of videos where I'm really just giving you my first impressions, my early impressions, stuff like that. I always tell you, I'll update you later. I'll let you know how I'm feeling about this in a future video or on social media. Well, sometimes that doesn't happen because of the sheer amount of products that I'm trying out. So this is my way of making sure that I'm following through on that promise to you guys. I do take my job seriously, even though it is just makeup and it's fun. I do take this seriously. So I know that when I was teaching, I always appreciated when like the leadership at our school, if they said they were going to do something and they followed through on it, I appreciated that. And I feel like that's important here as well. So that's what I'm going to be doing. I figure I'll do it. This is 2 months. It's like 50 plus products. I think it's 6 or 7 different videos that I'll be referencing today. I will link the videos that I'm specifically talking about down below. I did put these on my face today, so I'll show you if it's a product I applied today. I'll definitely overlay that on top of me talking about it in this video as well. Obviously, links and prices will be down below. I think I'll be able to fit all of this in my description box. We're gonna find out. Y'all have to tell, this lip product is gonna be like all over my face and all over my teeth. You guys are, I'm like looking in the mirror like, how we looking, girl? Like, I feel like it's just gonna be everywhere. So I'm gonna go through these instead of an order of video. I'm gonna go through it by face, then eyes, then lips, because that's how I had them kind of spread out in front of me as I was getting ready today. So it is a mixture. I have a lot, I think I have a lot more drugstore than I do high-end. I tried a lot of drugstore products this time around. So the primer that I put on my face is this LA Girl Pro Prep HD Moisture Nourishing Face Primer. I did a big LA Girl full face video trying a bunch of their products for the first time. I'm wearing a lot of them today. This is one of the products I really did like, and I've grown to like it more the more I've used it. I feel like it's a very lightweight primer. And you know what this reminds me of? It reminds me of the Cover FX Calming Primer that I'm pretty sure they discontinued before I could buy a new one because mine went bad, and so I got rid of it. And I'm like, well, that's your fault, Jessica. You didn't use it up. I loved that primer. It was very nourishing, but it was a very thin, kind of gel-ish, cream-ish product. And it just was, it sat so easily on the skin. That sounds bad if it's sitting on, but you know what I mean. And I feel like it helped makeup, but it wasn't too moisturizing, but it wasn't too like mattifying. It was right in the middle, and I felt like my skin liked it. This is what it reminds me of. And so I have been reaching for this a lot. This is a great primer if you like to put on facial oils, but you feel like, okay, if I put on the oil, my skin is gonna be like an oil slick. If you put this on top of a facial oil, which I did today, I'll show you which oil in a sec. I feel like this kind of tones it down enough and it kind of locks it in. I just really like it. So it's inexpensive, and I bought mine on, did I buy it on Ulta's? No, I bought all my stuff on LA Girl. So I think this is on Ulta's website though. So I like it, I'm using it, and I think it's good. It's good. And like I always say, it's not just good for the price. I think that's actually just a good primer. So the oil I used, I bought at Target in my Target haul. It's this Honest Beauty Magic Organic Beauty Facial Oil. I was like, magic, It says you can use it AM and PM. I don't use it PM, I just use it AM just because I have it in here. I don't have it like in my bathroom. You can tell I haven't used a lot. The smell of this kind of bothers me, you guys. It kind of reminds me of, it reminds me of the smell of the Elemis Cleansing Balm. I don't know. It just, and that smell makes me ill, so I haven't reached for it. I've probably, it really looks like I've used it all. I've used it probably about 5 times. I used it again today. Here's the problem. I actually like the way the oil sits on my skin. I feel like it does a good job of making my skin look kind of vibrant and alive, but it's not crazy oily. And like I said, it's really nice paired with that LA Girl Nourishing Primer. I just don't like the smell, so I might try this a few more times. I might pass it on to a sister because I figure they'll probably like it, but I do like the oil. So if there's a way for you to smell it and know that you'd like it before you buy it, it's a good oil. I hope that makes sense. I don't know why I opted for this water bottle today where I'm having to like dump it in my mouth like a pelican, because I should have opted for one with a straw because like I said, this lip product dough. All right, I gotta go faster. This is gonna take forever. So the foundation I'm wearing on my skin, I actually really like. And using it today reminded me, because I haven't used it in a few weeks, and I'm like, it really is nice. It's from Revolution, and it's their Conceal and Define Full Coverage Foundation. I have 2 shades, but today I had been mixing. Today I used F3. It's really the perfect shade for me. F3 and F4 are so close. But it's got a giant doe foot applicator. I know some people think is gross. I actually quite like it. I feel like an artist painting my face. I quite enjoy this. I do think it's full coverage. I put on 1 layer today and I feel like maybe medium to full. It's just beautiful coverage. It completely canceled out. I have like a breakout here. You can barely see it, and that was just 1 coat over it. I just feel like it looks nice. What I have realized using this more is that I have to pair this with some kind of a nourishing, moisturizing kind of primer, and I have to wear a facial oil under it to make sure that it's moisturized enough, because when I don't, I do notice like caking here, you know what I mean? So that's something to keep in mind. And really, I don't feel like a moisturizing primer for myself is enough. I have to also have the oil with it. So that's something to keep in mind if you have severely dry skin. It can be borderline, but I really do like it. And I used it for quite a while, a lot of days in a row, because I was enjoying it, and then I was just trying new stuff. But I'm excited to have tried it again. I think I'll go ahead and pass on the F4 shade. I don't like having more than 1 shade of something if I don't need to, especially when I know like my sister is really close to my shade and I know she'll like that. So that is that. So a foundation I tried I did not love is the Fenty Beauty Pro-Filt'r one. I have the shade 150. It wasn't exactly the right shade. It wasn't crazy. I just feel like this really is made for oily skin. I wasn't surprised to hear that. I can't wait for the day that Fenty releases a more radiant or more moisturizing foundation. I will be all over that, because as I've said, amazing what they're doing with shade ranges. It's important work that they're doing, and it's something that every brand needs to be paying attention to. But I can't wait till it works for my skin type, okay? Okay. So this is one that I will probably be passing on. I'll try to, as I'm going through, let you know, like, am I gonna keep it? Will I probably pass it on? I'm definitely gonna be doing a declutter video very, very soon, because I know a lot of you guys have been asking about it. I do declutter on my own bits and pieces, but I'm trying to hold off because I know a lot of you guys like to see it. I love watching declutter videos too. So a repurchase I made is this number 7 Lift and Luminate Triple Action Serum Foundation. They did repackage it into a frosted glass bottle instead of the plastic one they had. This shade's just not quite right for me. It's cool ivory. I would have thought it would have been, but it's just not. I love this foundation though, you guys. Again, I think if you have oily skin, you won't like it, but you see what I mean? It's just a little dark. It's a beautiful moisturizing foundation. It's almost, I mean, they're calling it a serum foundation, but I think when I hear serum foundation, I think it's gonna be like a drop kind of a foundation, and this isn't. It's got a little more girth to it. But I love it. It's got medium coverage in my opinion. It just is flawless on the skin. They need to widen their shade range on both ends. They really, really do. So I think I'll keep it, and I'll just keep lightening it with, I'll tell you about the next product. Actually, I'll show you me lightening it. How about that? So the next thing I tried was from LA Girl. I bought 2 of their foundation mixing pigments. And I know a lot of you guys are waiting on me to update you, so here we go. I find myself using the white one more than the blue. Here's what happened. And I showed proof on, I think, Twitter. LA Girl, on their website, they say buy the blue one to neutralize foundation, because I had mentioned that when I tried this in that video, and you can see it, it almost made the foundation green. Because what makes the color green? Yellow plus blue. So when you're mixing them, it makes sense that it would be almost green. And so the idea that it would neutralize it was interesting, because, and a lot of people said, well, no, you need the opposite of the color wheel, which also makes sense. However, that's what they marketed on their website. So I thought, well, I'll try it, but I'll show you what I mean. Now this one's not too yellow, so it might do something interesting. Let me grab just a little bit of both and mix it over here. I think this, if it's a little orangey, you can still see the blue, but it definitely makes it even like grayer, which is kind of what I was wanting. And that's what I was hoping for. But it just didn't do that for foundations that were too yellow. So I haven't found myself reaching for the blue very much. But with the white, it definitely lightens. And so if you're needing something to lighten, now that was a tiny amount of foundation with a good amount of the white. Let me add a little bit more foundation to show you what I mean. It definitely can lighten things beautifully. So for me, I can use the number 7, like that shade totally works for me. and it just took that tiny droplet of the white. And I think the LA girl doesn't mess with the foundation's formula too much. Not enough that I'm really noticing like, oh, that's totally different than what I'm used to when I use this foundation, you know? So now I think if you were mixing a lot of this in, it would definitely start to mess with it. But if you're mixing in a small drop, which is pretty much all you need because this is a pure white, it gets the job done. It's not expensive. So I don't find myself reaching for the blue, but the white I have used quite a bit and I do think it's really nice. If you're needing that, it's kind of a great weapon to have in your little makeup toolkit. Told y'all this is gonna be a long video. It's gonna be not fun to edit. A lot of you guys ask about products I was sponsored by and like if I'm still using them. Honestly, especially in the past few years, I talked about this ad nauseum in my Truthful YouTuber video, if you haven't watched that, where I talked about, you know, years ago, I feel like I have done sponsorships I regretted. But I have not in the past few years regretted any of the ones I've done. There are a few brands I've worked with that I later learned things about the brand, so that makes me regret it. But product-wise, I think the efficacy and the wonderfulness of the product, I still stand behind. This is one that I'd mentioned in a recent video, so I figured I would bring it up. It was my like 5 things I'm obsessed with right now video. I love this. I already have a backup. I'm almost out of this. It's the Paula's Choice Clinical Ceramide-Enriched Firming Eye Cream. This is an expensive eye cream. It is. But it has retinol in it and it's made for that under eye area. I've been using this in conjunction with my I don't have it in front of me, I should have grabbed it. My number 7 booster serum. It's like a line correcting booster serum, I think is what it's called. I did a sponsored post on Instagram for that. When I use these two in conjunction with each other, I feel like my crow's feet are gone. Now, keep in mind, mine were barely budding. But I literally cannot see them. It used to be like, I feel like 2 months ago, I'd put foundation or concealer here and you would just see them because I'm expressive, you know, but you just see them and I don't notice them anymore. I still have my fine lines, but I feel like the ones that were coming out aren't really noticeable at all, even without makeup. Like, it's just, I love those two in conjunction. I already have a backup of both and I really, really like them. I also got one of the number 7 ones for my mom. This product I'm using as my highlight today. This is the Rimmel Insta Duo Contour Stick. I think this was in I have a drugstore haul and a Target haul I linked below. I don't reach for the contour stick a ton. I don't think it's bad, but it kind of just blended away. And the more I tried it, the more I realized it's not worth the effort because it's barely there. You know what I mean? So I'm still on the hunt for a really good cream contour or bronzer stick. If you know of any that are drugstore, please let me know down below. But this highlight I do really like. I'd love to have it alone, you know, without this. But what I do is I just get a little bit on my finger and I tap it into my highlight region, my cheekbone. I'll put some above my brows. I'll put some under my brows. It's just a really pretty, natural, quick, glowy product. So this is one I think I am gonna move to my bathroom where I get ready really quickly some mornings because I think it's such a natural, quick glow. I don't need a brush for it. I don't need a sponge. And I do like it. Now, do I think you need to run out and buy it? No, just because I feel like there are plenty of good highlighting sticks like this. And since I don't really like the bronzer side, it's like, well, you're already like cutting half the product out that I don't think is great. So I think it's fine. But like I mentioned in that video, I think it looked pretty, but I had to keep piling it on to get anything to show. But then it's like, oh, but it looks so natural. That's where I'm torn with this, but I don't think you need to run out and get it unless you're like, that is exactly what I want. Oh, this one, the Revlon Candid foundation. I fell in love with this long ago back when I think I did a video just on this and that was months before this video, but this was in my 5 products I'm obsessed with right now video. And I just love it. I have the shade 200. I bet I could go a shade lighter. Yeah, I definitely could, but this still works for me. Like, and I'll just apply it with my fingers. I'll apply it with a sponge. It's okay with the brush, but it has higher coverage than you would think, but it's not super high. I just feel like with a nice glowy primer underneath, this is such a pretty, effortless kind of a product that when I wear it, I don't feel like my face ever looks cakey throughout the day. It just kind of blends in. It reminds me of a foundation version of the Misha BB cream. They're very, very similar products. I just think the Misha ones are a little bit more neutral colored and it has a crazy high SPF. But the idea behind this is that it's anti-pollution, anti-blue. It's got all these anti-environmental stressor kinds of products in it, but I do know that my skin looks really nice when I'm wearing this. So I really like it. I think I do want to try a shade lighter though. Or I guess I could mix it with my white mixer. See, I always forget about that with some things. Quick one, this is a repurchase, the Rimmel Stay Matte Powder. I love this. I put it in my T-zone today. I just feel like it soaks up just enough oil. I think if you have super oily skin, this is not gonna be your best friend. I don't think it mattifies enough. But if you've got kind of normal to dry, I think you'll like this. I've used this for years. Again, it's a really thin powder. There's no coverage whatsoever. It's just to get enough of the oil. You can still see some of my natural oil, and that's why I like this. Speaking of powder, I also have tried the Fenty Beauty Pro-Filt'r like loose powder more. I had the shade Butter, which is kind of a light, almost yellow tinted shade. It still works for my skin tone. I have it under my eyes today. I don't like this all over the face. I don't mind it underneath my eyes. I'll just grab a little bit and tap a bunch of it off, and I'll just kind of press it in there with my brush. And I think it does a great job there. Now, this is a giant thing for me to only use for my under eye, but I do like it. I feel like it's slightly brightening. It definitely sets the concealer. It's expensive though. That's something to keep in mind. Product I didn't love, the LA Girl Pro Contour Cream. I've used it maybe 2 more times. The highlight is okay, but it's still a little dark. So I love the idea of cream highlights and bronzers, obviously, but this shade-wise just did not work for me. Today I used the LA Girl Pro Conceal in like the salmon shade. Oh, it's called Classic Ivory. I think this is their lightest, and I was like, what? But it's kind of a salmon shade, so I used it on my inner eye today. Y'all, I do not understand how people are using these and liking them. The more I use it, I feel like it's moisturizing. And so in that way, if I could get a shade that actually worked for my under eye, I could see myself maybe liking it. But I feel like it just wipes away. Like it doesn't really cover what I needed to cover. It like slightly does, but then it's all orange around there. The green one I felt like really didn't do a ton. I think I ended up mixing these together to make it a shade that worked in my initial video. It was okay. I don't like them. I'm probably gonna declutter both because the more I've used it, the more I realize they're really not doing much at all. So I tried this Pixi Natural Contour Powder. I like this. I'm wearing it today. This is a crazy pigmented powder. It's more of a gray contour shade with like a slight hint of warmth. It's a great powder. You just have to be very, very careful. It does not budge once it's on. If you've been looking for one that's not like $40, I'm sure this is around $20. This is a really nice one. Now, I don't contour every single day, so I don't find myself reaching for it every day, but it's a beautiful, like this is probably one of the best contour powders I've ever tried. I feel like it blends well. Like I said, you have to be very careful with it. Now, what I applied it with today is actually a Sonia Kashuk brush. This is their wide angle contour. This brush is the bomb. But again, if you're working with a powder that is crazy pigmented, you have to tap so much off because this brush does such a great job keeping the powder on top. It doesn't like soak it in, you know what I mean? It doesn't literally, but it's so dense and wonderful that it stays on the edges of that brush. So the second you touch it, it's just like boom. So I've gotten good at using it, but it definitely took some practice. But this is a beautiful contour brush. It's great for, you can tap the product in if you'd rather tap it in. I really, really like this. And it's a shape that you could totally use for blush too. Speaking of blush, the blush I'm wearing, oh no, I didn't end up putting this on today, but I've been wearing this a ton. It's the LA Girl Just Blushing Blush in Just Playful. I've talked about this a lot because this became an absolute favorite of mine. Just a beautiful blush formula. This is just a shade I really, really like for every day. But really, really creamy powder, blends beautifully, stays on all day, and they have quite a few shades. Highly recommend. I applied it with I applied the other blush I'm wearing. You'll find out in a sec. With my Sonia Kashuk Angled Blush Brush. Again, this one's beautiful. It's a little bit smaller than I tend to like. This is the blush brush I always reach for. It's really expensive though, but it's much bigger. So like if I compare this to that Sonia Kashuk Contour one, the Contour one is a little bit closer to the size I like, but again, this one's too densely packed for the way I like to apply blush. So I think this is a good blush brush, but it's not my favorite. It's just not. So I could see myself over time decluttering this and passing this on just because, again, it's a little smaller than what I like. This Sonia Kashuk brush is beautiful. It's their flat top foundation. The gray handled ones, the gold handled ones are like their cheaper-ish line. You can't tell. They're really beautiful. Like I can't, other than the obvious packaging, honestly, the gray ones almost feel a little bit heavier. They're just not as like this has this really pretty like metal SK thing on the bottom. But other than that, I feel like the brushes are just as nice. So save the money if you can. This is a beautiful foundation brush. I don't use foundation brushes exclusively. Honestly, I'm more apt to use my fingers or a sponge right now. but I've used this probably 5 or 6 times and I've liked it with every foundation I've used it with. So it's just beautiful. It's incredibly soft. If you're looking for one, check it out. It's at Target. I don't think I like this, you guys. It's the LA Girl Pro Coverage Foundation. It says it's their illuminating foundation. That one confuses me. It also says it's fair. No, way too dark. Again, had to lighten it every time I've used it. I just don't like it. It just kind of highlighted any texture I had on the skin. And frankly, I didn't feel like, the more I used it with different primers and stuff, I felt like it didn't wear well throughout the day. Like it was just missing more so, like in those spots I'm always kind of missing foundation, way more rapidly than other foundations I like. The LA Girl Pro Setting Spray was pretty good. Again, I don't think it's anything to write home about. I will say the sprayer on it is fantastic though. Again, it reminds me of like the L'Oreal one. It kind of has an alcohol-y smell. I am betting there's alcohol in it. Yeah, a lot of setting sprays have it. That doesn't really bother me, but it definitely, you can smell it when you spray it. It's just okay. It's just okay. The L'Oreal one is very, very similar. It is. So like if L'Oreal's on sale, I gotta be honest, I have not reached for these Fenty Beauty matchsticks. I just didn't feel like these were that easy to work with. They were kind of like hard, so I would kind of warm them up. Like once it's there, it's harder to blend. So I did not find, especially the contour shade, what is it called? Amber. I didn't find that very fun to work with. So I have not used it. I might use it some more. The highlighting one I'd be more apt to use, and I remember now I have used this a couple times with my sponge. I just grabbed my sponge and tapped it in. That looked nice. These are expensive, you guys. And so if you know you have maybe more oily skin, I do think these stay in place. Like that is the one thing I remember, they stayed in place really, really well, especially the shades with pigment to them, because they are a little bit more drier. They're not as easy to blend. So that's something to keep in mind. If you have really oily skin, they might work beautifully on you. And if I want to take the time, I can make this contour stick look beautiful. So it's not that I want to get rid of it right away. It's just, I don't use it enough to have even needed it in the past few months. Oh my gosh. One product I was so surprised how much I liked. I used it today. Again, it's the Sonia Kashuk like marbleized giant sponge. This makes doing my foundation so fast. I just boom, 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 and it taps it in so quickly. And what I appreciate about this sponge in particular is that it really does not soak up product as much as like my beloved L'Oreal one does. That one definitely does. And so of course it shears it out. It's a sponge, that's what they do. But this one does it less, and it's gotta be what it's made of. It is a different kind of a sponge. The bounce back is like crazy. And it's kind of a more dense sponge. It gets humongous, but it is still kind of dense. And that's why I thought I wouldn't like it, but I like it. It blends it in so quickly, but it still keeps kind of some of that coverage there. The pointed part is a little bit, it's not as hard to use as you would think with, like if you're blending out a concealer. You'd be surprised how well you can get in there. I just don't find myself using it as much because I have brushes that I like better, but I do like this. I could see myself, if it were on sale, I could see myself buying another one because I've been enjoying using it. I used the Fenty Beauty Concealer today. Again, the shade 150. It's okay. Again, this is not one, if I lost it, I would not go repurchase it. And frankly, I wouldn't say you guys need to, unless you're really struggling to find a shade you need. Because I think this is good. It's got good coverage. It does stay in place. It creases a bit like every concealer I use, but you can set it down. I think it's fine. Again, I think you can get drugstore ones better, and that's why I don't see the need to buy this unless you like could not find a shade anywhere and they happen to have a shade that you would need, because that is, of course, one of the best things about Fenty Beauty. But like, for example, I like this one better. This is the Revolution Conceal and Define Concealer. I have the shade C4. I tried one lighter, I think C2 long ago, and I didn't like it as much. So I like a little bit of a color closer to my skin tone. I just think this is beautiful. This is one that like, if I suddenly lost all of my concealers, this would be one of the first ones I repurchase because it's so beautiful. The shade match is great for me, which is, I'm realizing if I feel like a concealer is too light, I don't end up liking it as much. The second I put it on, I'm like, it's okay. But like some of my favorite concealers, I think I love because they're closer to my skin tone. They're not quite as light and so stark, because then I feel like I can't blend it and get that seamless look I like. I like it to all kind of blend together a little bit better. Anyway, I really like this. It stays in place. Again, I need to set it. It still gets into my little under eye crinkles, but I really, really like this concealer. Another one that it really wasn't a haul, but I figured I'd mention, yes, I'm still loving my Flower Beauty Blush Balm. I mentioned it in one of those videos. Yes, I love it. My favorite shade is Pinched, and I use it so much. And one product I know that I decluttered actually was the NYX Can't Stop Won't Stop foundation. I hated that stuff so much. It was so dry. It reminded me of like the Morphe foundation. Too dry for my skin. No matter what primer I tried it with, I tried it maybe 3 or 4 more times. I could not make it work. And so I was like, we're done. So I think I've already gotten rid of that completely, which is why I don't have it to show you. Let's talk eyes, shall we? We've moved on. So one that I tried in the past few months is the Revolution Emily Edit. Y'all know I love Emily. I just haven't reached for this a ton, but that's just it. These are colors that like Emily Noel truly does use all the time. They're just not colors I do. I love the blush, but I do feel like you have to be a little bit careful. I was applying it today, I'll show you, and it applied great to one side, and the other side, it really stuck to one area, and it took me a bit to kind of get it to blend in. That's my own fault. I don't like to powder my cheeks. I really don't. So when I can avoid it, I do. But, so that's what I'm saying. It just stuck to it. But it is a really pigmented blush, which is a good thing. Just be careful with it. Same goes for the bronzer. I didn't like this highlight very much. The eyeshadows I think are decent quality, but again, they're just not colors I reach for a ton, so I didn't end up reaching for it a lot. I will say I used this shade Passion a ton for lining my eye. There was like a 2-week period where I literally used that to line my eye just with the brush every single day. It's just such a pretty purple color, like a deep plum that and it even has some glitter in it, but it just looks so pretty. And there's something about that deep purple that really made my brown eyes pop. And so that's probably my favorite part of this palette. I don't think it's bad. It's just like I would say about any palette. If you look at the colors and you don't feel like they're ones you're gonna use, then I do still want to get the Wants palette. I haven't got my hands on that one. And I really do adore her. And I think she is like, she's one of the good ones, you know? So I've been trying still the Rimmel Nude Eyes palette. I still think this is pretty good. I think the Rimmel eyeshadow formula is not bad. It's not my favorite in the drugstore, but I think if you are like wanting to try one, I think they're still good. I think you'll get good use out of it. You can get some good looks. I just don't think they're like the best eyeshadow. Like for me, I'd rather spend my money, spend my money on the Milani palettes. Those, you can get them for 15 bucks at Walmart, $20 like everywhere else. I just love that formula, but I do think this is okay. I used none of this today. I think I was gonna use it, but I used a different one. I'll show you here in a second. But not bad. They have a spice one that's more of like warm tones and peaches and stuff if you'd rather have that. Like I said, I think they're good. They're just not my favorite in the drugstore. This I've grown to really like. I use most of this on my eyes today. It's such a great matte palette. Simple. It's got some warmer tones, which is great if you don't have, like if you don't want a big warm tone palette with shimmers and mattes because you know you don't wear them a lot. This is a good little segue into warm tones. I'm wearing this kind of like taupey purple shade all over the lid and on my lower lash line. And then I use this kind of light peachy shade to blend it into the crease. And then I use that beige shade on my brow bone. I just think it's such an easy, quick look. I have done the same thing with this color here, all over the lid, and then use that to blend it up. It's just, and then I could use these to line, I could use them for outer corner. It's such an easy, quick, beautiful palette. I think they are very, very blendable, beautiful mattes. I was very impressed and I've used that quite a bit. I also talked about my perfect palette in the past few months. This is one I created with Makeup Forever. A lot of you guys have asked, okay, Jessica, now that you've used it for a while, do you think the Makeup Forever shadows are worth the price? I think that they are blendable and beautiful, but they are expensive. Do I think I'm gonna go and buy a ton of Makeup Forever shadows? No. I was really unimpressed with this one here. It's pretty if you kind of dig in, and I had to scrape the top off, and then I'm like, okay, there we go. But you definitely have to scrape the top off. But I don't think they're any better than ones that are cheaper. Like when I swatched this one in store, this kind of shimmery beige one, or champagne, I thought, oh, it's so pretty. But then when I took it home, I'm like, oh, it's not quite, maybe I need to scrape the top off of that to get down there. But I do think they're nice. I'm enjoying using them, obviously, but I don't think you have to spend the money. And I tried to make that clear in that video too. A lot of you guys asked if I own any Inglot shadows, and I do. I actually bought 4 shades they were all matte though, when I was in, I think like the Dublin airport or something like that. I bought some of those. So I actually have a 4-pan from Inglot that I really, really like. And they do fit perfectly in these, by the way. I traded one out for that for a while, and they fit beautifully both ways. So that's something to keep in mind. Another shadow palette worth looking into are these LA Girl Eye Lux. I think these shadows are beautiful. They're really pretty on the eyes, especially this kind of peachy one. I love putting that all over the lid and just like walking away. But they have these other two mattes. The other one I really like is Urbanized, and these are all matte. But again, I end up using these kind of in conjunction, like I could combine these two palettes. They're so beautiful. But again, this Urbanized one is amazing for if you're in need of just like a few mattes, like a cool tone matte, a warm tone matte, a deeper kind of charcoal, and then like a light beige. Boom, there you go. It's really cheap and they're beautiful. So it's kind of one of those things that'd be a great companion to like every palette that's out there, because a lot of the palettes are missing one of these things. You know what I mean? So one thing that I've used a lot for eye primer is the Fenty Beauty Matchstick in Linen. I think it was meant to be more of like a highlight, like a matte highlight kind of a thing. I keep this in my eye primer drawer and I use it that way, and it's really, really good because like I said, these stay in place really, really well. And so what I've noticed, I've been using another product I had to mention, the Sonia Kashuk Flat Top Concealer. Sometimes I'll apply it with my finger, and then other times I'll just get it on the brush and then tap it all over, and it's such a beautiful eye primer. So I don't think you need to go out and buy this to be an eye primer, but if you already own this and you find you're not using it, try it as an eyeshadow primer. You might be so surprised. But the Sonia Kashuk Flat Top Concealer brush, I don't use for concealer necessarily, although it would totally work. I use it for my eye primer and it works wonderfully. So if you've been looking for one like that, this one's pretty good. So two brow products I fell in love with. The CoverGirl Ultra Fine Brow Pencil. I use Soft Brown. I love it. It is the exact same as this other one, the LA Girl Shady Slim Brow Pencil in Brunette. I like this one slightly better. I think I misspoke. I thought it was $2.99. Maybe it was at one point and I'm not crazy, or maybe I'm crazy and it's always been $5.99. But I know some of you guys are like, Jessica, where are you getting that for $2.99? I'm like, oh, maybe it was $5.99, but I swear it was $2.99. Guys, I swear I saw it. Now I'm thinking about it. Regardless, I guess it's $5.99. It's still slightly cheaper than the CoverGirl. They are both so good. They're both so good. I think I like the shade match of Brunette from LA Girl better than Soft Brown from CoverGirl, but I love them both. I've already repurchased both. I kind of use them interchangeably, but they're just a micro brow pencil. I think the LA Girl one stays in place better, and so I think over time I could see myself using up those CoverGirl ones and just sticking with the LA Girl because it does stay better. The Fenty Beauty Eye Primer, it's good. Again, they're great ones at the drugstore. You don't need to spend the money. It's like the exact same. It reminds me of like a little bit creamier of a version of the Milani eye primer. Wow, this one impressed me though. This is the LA Girl Glide Gel Eyeliner. I used it today. Whew, this stays in the waterline so well. This is a crazy creamy eyeliner. I also put it on my waterline and my like tight line, and I kind of blended it out, smudged it out with a brush, and it smudged decently well too. So I feel like this is kind of a universal eyeliner. It's crazy black, it's crazy creamy. Again, I could see myself buying it again because this is one of the few eyeliners that I've used in my 6 years almost on YouTube that really stays in place. It's super black and it stays, and it's fantastic. So an eye primer that I think is so-so, the LA Girl Pro Primer. I don't think it's bad, but again, it's one of those I don't enjoy using it. It's not an enjoyable product. It reminds me of the Milk Makeup eye pigment, but it's not as easy to, what am I saying? It reminds me of the NYX like pencil and milk that I used to use long ago that like everyone used to use. Very, very, very reminiscent. It's just not as fun to blend onto my eyes, and I feel like I'm kind of tugging a little bit. So for me, I'm like, it's not a bad primer. It does the job really well, and it definitely blanks out the eye and makes things look brighter. So if you're looking for that, you'd love this. And I think if you have oily eyelids, you'd really love this. But for me, it wasn't as easy to use, and that's why I haven't reached for it as much. But I do think it does a good job. I think this was a repurchase when I mentioned it. The Revolution Renaissance Flick liquid liner is now my favorite liquid liner. It kicked the NYX Epic Ink liner out. I feel like they changed something with that because I've repurchased it a lot. And all of a sudden, I started using it and it would bleed like crazy. And I remember some of you guys recently saying that too. You're like, hey, Jessica, I know you really like the NYX Epic Ink liquid liner, but I feel like mine bleeds. Like, did I get a dud? And I'm like, yeah, I think you did. But then I tried some newer ones that I bought and I'm like, so I don't know what they did. Maybe I'm crazy. Except for I know I'm not. It was great for like a year. I repurchased it so many times. It would do the most beautiful wing, but I don't know. I'm kind of like about it now. And so I have a new one and I haven't opened it yet because I'm like, I don't know. This one is so much better. I've repurchased it at least twice. It is, the packaging is prettier, but it doesn't bleed. You can create the thinnest, most beautiful lines. It stays in place. Oh my gosh, this is so good. So, a couple of mascaras. One that I don't have because it had already dried up, and so I've already thrown it away. Or maybe it's in my empties bin. It's the LA Girl Flashy Mascara. I just felt underwhelmed by it. It was just not great. So I don't know what else there is to say about it. It didn't volumize. It didn't lengthen the way I wanted it to. It didn't really curl. It just didn't do as much. The more I used it, the more I realized it, that like compared to like the L'Oreal Lash Paradise, I was like, no. This one's interesting. This is the Flower Beauty Zoom In Ultimate Mascara. It's got this kind of silly little thing that I'm like, it can kind of squeeze in or squeeze out. I really focus this on my lower lash line. Now today I did it for my actual lashes, just straight up. And I think it curls them, it separates them. It doesn't add a ton of volume though. And so for me, that's a big thing that I'm looking for in mascara. So it's not my favorite. I don't think I'll repurchase it, but I don't think it was bad. I have it in brown because I wanted that for my lower lash line. So again, I'll keep using it until it dries up because I do like it for the lower lash line and I think it's fine. And if you like just kind of flirty, separated, curled lashes, but you don't want volume, you'd actually probably like it. This one surprised me. It's the Wet n Wild Mega Slim Skinny Mascara. I think it's like under $5. It's a really weird, like kind of almost fibery mascara. It's not fibers, it's not a primer, but it just kind of gives that vibe. And I think it might be because of the way that the wand looks. But again, this is a great lower lash line mascara. This will add weird length though. Like that's what I mean by it's fibery. Like you'll put it on your lower lash line and suddenly your like lashes are like down to here and you're like, what? It's cool and weird. And so I think it kind of takes a little practice to get used to using it. I don't use it at all on the upper lash lines because it does not do like anything. And for the lower lashes to just kind of separate and make them black and really pretty, this is amazing. So this is one I could see myself repurchasing again. Moving on to lips. So I have quite a bit. Let's start with what I'm wearing on my lips today. This is the LA Girl Lipify Stilo One Swipe Intense Creamy Color. This is in the shade, oh, the shade is so pretty, Brave. I love this shade. And this formula is the creamiest, most beautiful formula ever. However, it gets really, really dirty, which, you know, who really cares? You can't put it back down once you push it up. It's such a beautiful formula. However, because it's such a bold color, you have to be so careful. Even when I line my lips, like with something else with this, it's just so creamy. So I do want to get a maybe more wearable shade that, you know, if it does get everywhere, it's not going to be super obvious. This is one of those shades that like if you're going to be drinking or eating at all, you don't want to wear this because it's going to get all over the glass. But it's so pretty. Like if you're just going to something, but you're not going to be like eating, I mean, you can drink out of a straw. That's what I was saying earlier, but it's so beautiful though. I love this shade. So I need to find this shade in like a more regular lipstick that's not going to move around because I have completely fallen in love with this. And I really like that formula. But like I said, it's just a little dangerous for bold lip colors. All right. I didn't love the LA Girl Matte Flat Finish Pigment Gloss. Again, I just don't really like matte lips. I think if you do, you probably would like it. But you guys know me. This was a nice formula. The Rimmel Stay Satin Liquid Lip Color. Again, it's not quite as drying as like other matte liquid lips. It's kind of in between. It kind of keeps that more satin-y look. But I do notice that, you know, it can be harder to get off at the end of the day. Now that could be partly because of this red color. Again, I would love to try this in a more neutral color. If you have one that you really, really like in this line, please let me know. Because that could be one I could see myself using more often. Because I thought the formula was nice, but I'd rather just grab a red lipstick. You know what I mean? This one was so cool to try. The NYX Powder Puff Lippy. But I found that the more I wore this, the more I was like, It made my lips super dry by the end of the night, probably because of the formula, but it does feel like you're putting on like clouds. Like it's the weirdest thing, but I do feel like in the end, my lips kind of hated it. And so I don't think I would ever need to buy another color of this. I could still see myself wearing it. It's kind of reminiscent of this color, isn't it? but it's not one that I think you have to have. It stays in place pretty well. It transfers a little bit, but like I said, my lips hated it by the end of the night. A love of mine, the Fenty Beauty Gloss Bombs. I love the shade Fussy even more than the original shade Glow. They're so beautiful. They smell like childhood lip smackers, like Wonderment, like the roll-on glosses we used to have in the 90s. Oh, I love them. The glosses are so beautiful. They're kind of shimmery, glittery, but they make your lips look so big, and you love the smell, and they're juicy, and they don't dry my lips out. These are gorgeous. Gorgeous, gorgeous lip glosses. This matte lipstick was actually a really nice formula from LA Girl. I have it in the shade Hush. It's just kind of a creamier matte lipstick, which I liked. But again, I have so many lipsticks. This is one that it didn't impress me enough. However, it's a great price point. So if you're like, oh, you find a shade you're in love with, or maybe you just need a shade for an event and you don't want to spend a lot of money because you're not going to wear it a lot, I did think this was nice. This is one I mentioned in my 5 things I'm obsessed with, the water blending lip oil from Noonie, which is technically Mimi Box. I love this. I use this at night a lot. I use it in the morning, like right after I brush my teeth, I'll throw it on my lips. I have a couple other kinds I haven't cracked into that are new, like they have like a minty one and like, but I really, really like this. But I have a cheaper alternative for you. This is the NYX This Is Everything lip oil. This is a very, very similar product. I used this morning as I was getting ready to kind of moisturize my lips. I think it did a great job moisturizing my lips before I put this on. And it's just cheaper. And I feel like it's really, really similar. And the packaging is actually cuter, I think. Well, they're both cute. But anyway, so I was really impressed. This is one that I actually really, really like and would totally recommend. I also tried I had bought more shades of my Dose of Colors lip glosses. I own so many. I own these 6. I also own the Mickey Mouse ones. I don't wear those as often because they don't look good on me. The formula is there, it's just the colors don't look good on me. But I think I had hauled On Repeat, which is the most beautiful nude lip gloss I think I've ever worn. If you want like a brownie nude, but you feel like every brown nude you've ever tried looks ridiculous on you, that's how I felt too. Then I found this and I'm like, it actually like looks good on my lips. I can't believe I'm saying this. I have worn this so much. This is my favorite lip gloss formula of all time, all of these. The original shade I owned was Messy Bun, and it's this beautiful pink with like a kind of cool tint to it. I also love Just My Type. I love Spill the Deets. Those are very similar. You don't need both because they're hardly different. This one, Happy Hour, was a little too peach for me. It looked weird with my skin tone, so I don't really reach for it. Jazzy has grown on me a lot because it's more of like a shimmer. It looks beautiful on other lip products, but I've also just worn it alone. It looks very similar to the Fenty Glow one. Actually, let's compare those. These smell like vanilla cupcakes, but it's like the best smell I've ever smelled. The Fenty ones are a close second. Yeah, so there's Fenty Glow. And there's Jazzy. Jazzy's just pinker. They all smell so good. So I love those. Those were a great discovery, you know, the last half of last year that I can't stop talking about. I also tried the Fenty Mademoiselle Plush Matte Lipstick in Thick. Again, this just dried my lips out big time. Beautiful color, super, you know, glidey formula. It's super matte. I love the packaging. I love how thin it is, but you have to like matte lips. But I do like the color, and it, you know, in the realm of matte lipsticks, I think it was good. And then I also tried the Stunna Lip Paint in Uncuffed. Again, super drying formula, but beautiful pigment. I love the packaging. I know they have like reds, and I'm trying to stop myself from buying any of these because I know myself, and I know I don't wear liquid lips that dry down like that anymore. But then like when I see like berries and reds, I'm like, maybe. I'm like, no, Jessica, you do not need that. You won't wear it enough to buy it. So I think that was everything. That was a lot. This is an insanely long video. And I have lip product on my teeth. I am exhausted. So I hope this was helpful. I'm thinking based on the length of this video, and I know how long it's gonna take me to edit, would it make more sense, and I know this is probably overwhelming, it'd make more sense for me to do it once a month. So, but I don't wanna do it at the end of that month. I think I need to be a month out from whatever I'm focusing on, because that gives me that extra month to be trying it. Because let's say I did February and here it is the first week of March. Well, if I do February, I tried some things that last week of February that I still don't know how I feel, so that's no better. You know what I mean? So I need to be a month removed from whatever month I'm focusing on. So This was November, December, and parts of January. So maybe at the end of March, I could just focus on February and just say, okay, here's my roundup now that I've had this extra month. Let me know, because I'm thinking a month at a time might be more helpful, because this is overwhelming. This is a lot. Not only for me to do, but I'm imagining that it's overwhelming for you guys. So obviously, if you're curious about what I'm absolutely adoring, that's where I mention things in like my monthly favorites and fails kinds of videos, my best and worst. So definitely stay tuned for those, because that's where I really focus in on that. And I hope that you will come say hi to me on my social media. It's GMBeauty89 everywhere. And I hope you'll subscribe as well before you leave. And I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye. Now I'm self-conscious that there's lipstick on my teeth.